You know what? Some games just know what gamers want. Decisive games without any second guessing themselves, giving you pure fun or thrills without a second thought. We want to talk about them today. Games that really knew what they were, what they wanted their players to do, and yeah, just really had a great time doing it. Hi folks, it's Krypto, and today on this video, we've got 10 amazing games that knew exactly what they were doing.
Oh yeah. I heard the shots and I knew I had to move fast.
They're coming from the rear!
Look, some games waste zero time, and Call of Juarez Gunslinger is definitely one of them. The game starts with sort of this silly setup. A bunch of dudes crowd around this old cowboy acting like a fanboy. We get some quick exposition and boom, the game has launched you straight into the action. Just the strong steel drums from the soundtrack start up. This old western town pops up, the bad guys are shooting at you, you've got a 6-gun, and it's time to wreck shop. Call of Juarez Gunslinger is a goofy as all hell game with a story about Silas Greaves and his bounty hunting adventures, and that's it. It keeps it real simple. All the action is framed with this unreliable narrator gimmick where characters keep changing around what happens or the detail of the story keep changing. Again, goofy as hell, but it keeps going and the gunplay's interesting. The combo system makes shooting people way more fun, and the entire thing is paced for you to just rip through it. It's a short game, about 5 or 6 hours long, and all of it is just pure action. No padding, no downtime, just a bunch of crazy cowboy stuff going on constantly. Coming in next is Bright Memory Infinite. Now, if you're gonna make basically a futuristic FPS that blends some interesting melee combat, just make it tight. Like that's what they thought with Bright Memory Infinite. It annoying only comes in at about 3 or 4 hours long, but this game is just pure high-octane action all the way. There's not a lot of story, there's some very impressive graphics, a lot of things that go boom, and some really slick-looking gunplay. But more importantly, the whole thing just feels good from the jump. The shooting just feels perfect. The button presses, the feel of them, are responsive and satisfying. Same goes for the melee stuff. Bright Memory gives you a few powers, as well as a sword that lets you cut your way through a lot of enemies very quickly. And again, it just feels good to slice people up, which sounds more than a little messed up. And it is, but hey, we're talking about video games here and not murdering real people. The coolest thing about Bright Memory is that they don't waste any time getting you into the action. The original release starts you on this walk and talk down a corridor, but it only lasts a few minutes before the action ramps up and then never stops through the whole game. Good shooting, good melee combat, good level design. I mean, I'll take that over an 80-hour game with 3 hours of actual solid fun. Next up, we have Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora. Now, I know people don't seem very hot on the Avatar movies, I get it, but I think this game is a great example of editors and developers knowing exactly what the hell they're supposed to do. So this is an open world game, and I think you'll understand this, maybe sentence doesn't make a lot of sense, but it's an open world game that, while open world, understands that it's supposed to be a game. Sometimes open world games get so bogged down in their structure, sometimes the need to be live games. Sometimes they are live games, and let's be frank, a lot of these games just quote-unquote start really slowly, or at least the rate at which the ramping up occurs, it's pretty damn slow. This isn't that. All of the stuff that makes moving around this world fun and cool is in your hands right at the start. Getting around as a Na'vi is great. You're jumping 20 feet and climbing all over the place. The movement is completely fluid and the way it controls just makes sense immediately. Just exploring the starting point of the game is just pure enjoyment. It's not waiting, you can just get in the game and start having fun. Also, the variety of all the tools in the game just makes it fun to screw around. You've got a bow and arrow really for everything, but you also get guns because you're this hybrid Na'vi that's trained to use human things. In a game that took a page from a different open-world school of design, there would be a lot of build-up to this reveal. You'd get all this at the middle or end, but this game understands that it's a shooter first and foremost, and it gets you all this stuff really quickly so you can have fun with it.
Lafayette, keep your head down. Take out the sniper. Absolument, monsieur.
Next on the list is The Order 1886. Now here's a game that some people absolutely hate and others appreciate for what it is. One place where everyone tends to agree, regardless of how you feel about the game, is that it knows exactly what it's supposed to be and makes very little effort in trying to be anything else. The Order is a cinematic, story-driven action showpiece. Like, that's it. And it keeps the game focused and all thriller, no filler. There's not a second of downtime here because nothing exists besides the main story. The game is the definition of a closed corridor linear action adventure that we don't get nearly enough of these days, in my opinion. It is very much a PS2 era game in a lot of ways, both good and bad, because even the best linear story-based games often have a few hours of padding added in. The Order doesn't bother with any of that. It's about 5 hours of pure cinematic AAA action, and then it is over. No side missions, no downtime, not a lot of progression, really. It's basically an interactive movie at times. Look, the game is kind of missing a meat and potatoes, and I would even say a little short. Give me a couple more hours of meat and potatoes, I would have liked it, but hi there. The pulpy story, awesome steampunk Victorian London setting and atmosphere, some absolutely great graphical design. Even if it is a little bit over the top in the seriousness, I like it. Coming in next, we have Resident Evil 3 Remake. While some may dislike the length or cut content with this game, there's not really too much arguing that Capcom didn't know exactly what they wanted to do with the game. It's a lean, mean, third-person survival horror machine with no downtime, nothing else. It's got a relentless pace, non-stop action, and tricky combat with Nemesis, the main bad guy. He rarely lets up, and when he's around, all you can do is run for your life. Personally, I feel like Resident Evil 2 took inspiration from Alien Isolation, and you could really feel it with the Mr. X segments. But here, they really took that freeform game designer House of Horrors analogy. Even further, Nemesis is like a maze runner. It makes the early parts of the game especially super intense and easy to burn through the limited ammo you're given. The combat here is more difficult than you might expect. The zombies are not pushovers, no matter how buff or badass Jill looks in the game. If the last few Resident Evil games gave you too much ammo, this one goes in the opposite direction. Enemies are tougher, ammo's more limited, especially in the earlier hours. Yeah, it's not the longest game in the series, but it does what it does, a lot faster than a lot of the other games. It's quick, it's dirty, and that's the point.
And you're out! Oh, look at that. Teamwork.
Up next, we have Gears of War 4, which just nails Gears. It just knows what it's doing. If any game can be defined as a meat and potatoes game, Gears 4 is one of them. Really, any Gears of War game is one of them. Gears 3 and Judgment tried bringing the series in more heavies, epic direction with mixed success. Gears 4, on the other hand, laser focuses on what Gears of War really is. It's all in on what made the original trilogy so damn good. Despite being about a new group of characters, the game really feels like a classic Gears game from the moment it starts. It's got a cover-based third-person combat, the awesome guns, lots of teamwork, and enemies that are fun to obliterate. You got the roadie running, you're doing the super fast running animation with the camera close to your back, you're slicing dudes in half with the saw thing. It's awesome. It just gets everything and does it perfectly. It's kind of the purest form of the franchise. Like I said, it just really nails it. Gears of War 1 through 3, as the series went on, it got more bloated. More story, more systems, more stuff, and that all had its place. But Gears 4 really got back to the core of what made the series so damn fun and redefined the concept of stop and pop shooters. Sure, it might seem a little dated today in terms of mechanics or whatever, but they're still a blast to play, and Gears 4 just really executes it perfectly. The story is concise and moves at a steady pace. The main characters are genuinely likable. The set pieces are among the best in the entire series. Like, fighting a battle in the middle of a windstorm is just intense as hell, and it gets all the way crazy, like a lightning supercell rips through the battlefield. That only happens in video games or movies that are unrealistic but awesome. It's just pure popcorn action movie stuff, and you know what? That's what Gears is.
I'm taking my toys, and I'm going home!
Coming in next, we have Spider-Man Miles Morales. Spider-Man Miles Morales is one of those games that knew exactly what it was and played to its strengths. It's basically a $50 proof of concept from Insomniac Games for another Spider-Man story, feeling very complete, even if it is not full-price game length. I'm not 100% against this type of thing if we're clear what it is, and I think they were pretty clear what it was. It is a full Spider-Man city with a ton of cool missions, a few cinematic sequences that put delays on you with some pretty cool moves, but it's also just not that long. They started with the better part of New York already rendered from 2018's Marvel's Spider-Man. And where they expanded, they did it well. But they obviously knew they had a city and new assets to define it, and they did a great job. Like, to be frank, web swinging looks more fun in Miles Morales than it did in Marvel's Spider-Man. It looks more dynamic, like Miles is still getting the hang of it, and that's a smart move. Every single moment you spend just out in the city is pure fun, and the rest of the game is the same. The straightforward mission design, the short story, the tighter pacing, all stay within the limits of reason. Miles Morales doesn't try to do too much, but what it does do, it does extremely well. In some ways, if you think Marvel's Spider-Man is a little too much game, or just too long of a game, Miles Morales really gives you all of the stuff you want without having to slog through some of this or that. Next on the list, we have Hi-Fi Rush. New developer IP games are always a little bit of a risk, and sometimes they land, sometimes they don't. Hi-Fi Rush was pretty damn fantastic right out the gate. Not because it was perfect or anything, although it is pretty close in some regards, it's just that the game is laser focused. They know exactly what this is, and it's just pure gaming genius. A rhythm action game with some of the best presentation of the year, pretty badass gameplay. The narrative is absolutely secondary here, to say the very least. And at times, it is a little bit annoying, but it's very clear Hi-Fi Rush knew exactly what they wanted to be and knew exactly what players wanted to do while playing a game. The gameplay is this awesomely innovative idea of a game that's essentially a character action game in the vein of Devil May Cry or Bayonetta, but the combat is tied to a consistent beat. So everything in the game drops on the beat, every attack the player does comes out on the next beat of the song, and while mashable, when you actually learn how to play the game and how to get good at it, landing your attacks on the beat rewards you with more damage and higher score. Essentially, it is rhythm game boss fights with gummy bear parkour glued to the sides of it. It is as focused as possible, but it works in a way that sounds gimmicky at first, but really turns into this genre-bending experiment that really paid off. Up next is the first Berserker Kazan. It's been a while since we got a decent Souls-like game, right? Dark Souls beginners may even be sick of hearing how many games have taken this formula. Copy a few things here, leave a few things there. But what's kind of interesting about Kazan is it knows exactly what it's doing. Kazan isn't a Souls-like exactly, but you will see a lot of recognizable elements in it. At times you'll be thinking Onimusha, and at times you'll be thinking a little Bloodborne. Sometimes you'll be thinking a little Bayonetta, or I don't know. It's a lot of different things all at once, and yet somehow this kind of Frankenstein of a game really works. It knows exactly what it is supposed to be and does exactly that. There's a couple of rough patches here and there, but they're few and far between, and outside of that, there's really not much to complain about. What's less obvious about the game is that it's more arcade action focused. It's kind of like a hybrid of a 2D beat 'em up, a third-person character action game, and the more deliberate timing focused gameplay of the typical Dark Souls. You come in expecting one thing and you end up with something you've never played before, actually. You burn through like a burning supernova of cutting people's heads off, and it knows exactly how to do that. It's also wrapped in a pretty bow on the aesthetic. This is inspired by a series with deep roots in the anime community, and it just looks great. And finally at number 1 is Bayonetta 3. Are there flaws in Bayonetta 3? Oh yeah, but they're a consequence of just how all in on its own idea this game really is. It's a bigger, more insane Bayonetta game. The series has always been a little bit over the top, but Bayonetta 3 is another level. Every level, especially the opening one in New York, is absolutely nuts with massive set pieces. Everything is very carefully crafted around the big gimmick of the game. Playable, giant demon summons, Godzilla-style battles that you actually get to play. It's every bit as awesome as it sounds. The actual story of Bayonetta 3 is another example of going too crazy. The good thing in my opinion, but not everyone agrees. How I feel? Who cares? It gave me one of the most amazing opening hours of any video game ever, and it knows it. This was a game that should not exist, and there's really no worry about making the game more accessible or making it a serious story or slowing down for a second. It just doesn't. Their philosophy of insane full-throttle gameplay is obvious from the first few minutes of the game, and while it is sometimes absolutely astonishing what they're able to throw into this game, it's also a mission statement from them. From minute 1, it's full speed ahead. Also, the core gameplay is still really satisfying. Just kick the stuffing out of people, it's what she does. Yes, it's a little insane, but it knows exactly what it is.